Hi everyone, welcome to Tom Grant Guitars. My name is Toss Edwards. Thanks for tuning in to episode 4 in this build series for the Great Guitar Build Off. Today we're going to go over the finishing process of applying a finish to the guitar and also some of the fretwork to get the guitar to this point. The finish that I used here is True Oil. It's a very durable finish. You can get a nice shine out of it. This was my first time using True Oil, which, as you'll see later, really was probably a bad idea to do on a competition guitar. But I'll talk more about that later. So sit back and enjoy. This is the money shot, and probably the best part of the video. It's really what you came here to see, and so if you don't watch the rest of the video, I really don't mind. This is the best part of it. I'm using True Oil to finish this guitar, which is basically a combination of linseed oil and some hardeners, and it can produce a really hard, durable finish. It works very well for guitars, usually. This is my first time working with True Oil, and it doesn't work quite so well on softwoods like this figured redwood on the top. The redwood ended up absorbing a tremendous amount of oil, and when it did, the surface parts of the surface expanded and other parts didn't. You can see as I'm laying it on, the growth rings sort of get shinier than the lighter colored wood. It may not be easy to see, but basically what would happen after a couple coats, the surface ended up being almost ripply. You can see this happen on sometimes older acoustic guitars. After a few seasons of drying out in the winter and getting humid in the summer, the light spruce tops get a little bit ripply, and if you look with a raking light, you can actually see that it goes on the top of the finish. So that's what I was ending up with here. Not at this point. At this point, I think there's only one coat of oil, but later on in the video, I ended up having to put on the True Oil a lot thicker than you normally would. And this caused issues with drying. I ended up probably putting on a total of 30-35 coats of True Oil in total. I had to sand them back. I think I did 4 separate wet sandings. Just to level everything, and there are a couple other issues that we'll get to later on. So overall, I wouldn't choose this finish again. The reason I chose it is so that I could do what you're seeing right here. I wanted to be able to finish the inside portions of this guitar, which this would have been impossible with a spray lacquer. By the time any of the lacquer got on the inside, you'd have drips on the outside, and it would just be a terrible mess. So I needed something that I could wipe on, and True Oil seemed to be the easiest to apply, the quickest to dry. It seemed kind of like a set it and forget it solution. And on the back of the guitar, it really was. It worked really well on the mahogany. It looked beautiful. It worked fantastic on the neck. I was very happy with that. So here you can see the first wet sanding that I did. This was after I think 4 coats of True Oil, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually dipping a piece of sandpaper into the oil and wet sanding with the oil. And this helps to both flat sand the surface and also apply basically another layer of the oil. And you'll be able to see once I wipe this excess oil off that it really does, you can see there on the right, it really does get a lot flatter. And this was probably the best, unfortunately, the best that the finish looked. Pretty much everything I did after this point was trying to get it back to how it looked after that initial sanding. A lot of this sanding also wouldn't be necessary if I was using the True Oil properly. True Oil is something that you almost can French polish, but what I had done, I had applied it far too thick. I was trying to build it up quickly because I wanted to get a video out, and that caused problems and ended up taking way longer than it should have. So if I had simply applied the True Oil in very thin layers, I wouldn't have run into these issues. I was just trying to speed things up, and you can't do that with finishes. You really have to take your time with the finish to make it turn out well. So lesson learned. I will continue using True Oil. I think it is a good finish, especially now that I'm more familiar with how it works. But it definitely wasn't a great choice to use a brand new finish for the first time on a guitar that's for a competition that I have to send out. This is where I really knew I was in trouble. I had built up a bunch of coats of oil, everything was great, and I wanted to buff it out and polish it so that it had a high gloss. And you can do that, it is possible, but something went wrong. I don't know if it was humidity or if there was something wrong with the buffing compounds, but as I polished and buffed this, the finish became cloudy. You can't see it in this video, but every time the light would hit it, you'd see this blue sheen in the finish, and it looked terrible. So actually, after I applied this polish, I ended up sanding it back a little bit, and I had to apply a couple more layers just to get the finish back to where you couldn't see that blue sheen anymore. I know I've said a lot of negative things about the finish on this guitar, but overall I think it did turn out really well. This is about 3.5 weeks after the first application of oil, probably 35 individual coats, several sandings, and I'm happy with where it is. I may do a couple final top coats just to get everything perfect, but I'm happy with the matte finish on top, the gloss on the back, and I know it's going to be durable. I think it really suits the guitar, and it looks really nice. So thanks for watching, thanks for making it this far, and stay tuned for the next one.